Say I'm crazy, but I can't hear it in your voice. It ain't got nothing to do with pride.
Are you okay?
I'm just taking up my side.
Okay with where you see yourself on the screen right
to
now?
stick or walk away.
Well, the battery's changed to your, the mic's
So
still
I'm
the
back,
same.
and we're back live here on Talk with TaJ, and I have my longtime friend from back in the day of the Peacebuilding Institute at Eastern Mennonite University. Did I get that right? Ladies and gentlemen, won't you welcome Mr. William Bill Goldberg. Bill, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah, it's the summer
Bill, can you hear me?
Peacebuilding.
I can't hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
For the board. Here's the other. Here. Just plug that in the laptop. And unmute the laptop when you're done.
All right, Bill, let's see here. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
It's still muted. Now you should be able to hear.
All right, Bill, I still can't hear you. Let's see here. All right, you can hear me. Oh, now I can hear you. Now I can hear you. There we go. I'm going to turn you down a bit. All right, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Hey, so ladies and gentlemen, won't you welcome Bill Goldberg? At least I can hear myself saying that now to you. Bill, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm well. I'm trying not to hide too much behind this microphone. Nice to see you, man. Long time no see.
No kidding. It's been way long.
So, number one, tell us who you are, tell us where you're from, and tell us about Eastern Mennonite University and the Peacebuilding Institute.
All right. Well, I'm Bill Goldberg. I am Baltimore born and raised. And I know Aaron from way back in high school.
Woo, and junior high school.
And junior high school. Long time.
I know, man.
I have been living in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and working at Eastern Mennonite University for 20 years or so.
I went to Bridgewater College and James Madison University, so there you go. There's my connection to your area.
That's right, and that kind of still blows my mind that you went. I taught there a decade ago, and my wife's teaching there now as an adjunct. So it's just weird, some of these connections.
It's kind of like Randallstown High School. When I went there, it had a farm across the street from it. I don't know if it still has that farm.
Yeah, I remember that.
So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My uncle had a horse at that farm, so that's the weird thing. It gets weirder and weirder.
That's right. So tell us about it.
All right, I've been here for 20 years. The Center for Justice and Peacebuilding is kind of an umbrella for a master's degree in conflict transformation, which is kind of like conflict resolution for most folks. Also a master's degree in restorative justice. And the program I run, the Summer Peacebuilding Institute, does short-term trainings in May and June each year on a variety of topics, everything from analyzing conflict to leadership. We have a program on trauma awareness. We do work on violent extremism, getting people to understand how to deal with violent extremism. Restorative justice, which is another big angle for us, which is it's basically like a system of justice that acknowledges that something needs to be done, not just punishment of offenders of crimes. Something's happened to a victim, and then the victim needs to get their life back together. They need to get their relationship with the community back. They need to get their, just need to move forward. And so restorative justice is kind of a system that you can use to get victims and offenders talking, to get past that, to help communities after there have been crimes or violence or, problems with school renamings or monument removals, things like that.
There was a movie that I went to go see called, I think it was called Frenemies, and it took place here in Durham, North Carolina back in the 70s. And basically, segregation, desegregation, blacks and whites going to school together, and there was an issue behind that. But they sat down and they did a thing called a charrette, where they brought people on different sides and said, hey, we're going to have a conversation, and it's going to be 5 people on one side of the issue, 5 on the other. And they spent like 2 weeks actually unlayering and being very specific, and they made some breakthrough. And as a matter of fact, the 2 people who were opposing one another turned out to be great friends and advocates for one another and causes. So it sounds like that's what you guys do, is try and get away from, and I use this term often, the diatribe, and help people on opposing sides have a meaningful dialogue. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. Our goal is basically to acknowledge that violence occurs and to help people recover from that violence, from that crime. What you were just talking about, we have a course that's on circle processes, which is similar to what you were saying. A lot of times it's used instead of a court system where you'll have the victim and the offender both in the same room, along with their support, whether it's family or friends or religious, pastors or something. And then all the people in the room get to talk about how what happened affected them. And it's an amazing system. It can last for hours, where people just like unload, like, this is what happened to me after this crime occurred. This is how I felt, and this is how I've dealt with it. And then, like, a lot of the times you get the offender like not realizing what happened, not realizing the extent. Like one of the examples I like to talk about is, let's say a bunch of kids having fun go down the street and just start breaking store windows. You take them to court, they might go to jail, they might get a fine. That still doesn't fix the windows. What a circle process and what restorative justice would do is it would get those kids helping fix the windows for the shop owners and maybe work for them a little bit, as a way to pay that back. And you have a lot of these kids who go through this process, and they would say that it's easier just to pay the fine. Like, having to talk to the person that they hurt is, much tougher than just paying some court.
Sure.
But it really helps communities, like, after things like that, get back together and like get on with their lives.
So to that point, I sent you a couple of articles and I talked to you a week or so ago and telling you some things that are happening here in our town in Pittsburgh, North Carolina, about how our commissioners had voted to take down a Confederate statue. And then from that has been quite a bit of polarization and just opposing sides, and even to the point, Bill, to where it has broken out in violence, where there's been a couple of fights and whatnot. And so it was to that degree, when it started getting there, I said, you know what, there's got to be some greater ways of thinking. Not that everyone has to agree all the time, but the way that we communicate with one another, even in our disagreement, has to be in a forward-moving way. So to that, and to what I've sent you, what is a direction that you would see to be able to help create a more positive environment in towns like this? And this is happening all over America, where there's opposing views on things such as Confederate statues and flags and whatnot. What would be an approach that you would see could work for a small town?
Yeah, so actually, I know some issues just around here in Stanton, about 30 minutes south,
Sure.
Around renaming the high school. I can't remember what it was. It was like Jeb Stewart or Robert E. Lee or whatever. The town finally got to the point where this needs to change. And the process they went through was 6 months to a year of getting input. And, both sides had huge problems with it. Like, people wanted to change because it's, reflecting a Confederate general. And then the other side is saying, like, I grew up in this town and I went to whatever the school's name is, and I don't see a need to change it. Eventually, the school board actually just made the decision to change it, which kind of sounds like what's happening where you are, that the county or the city's just saying, we're going to remove it. And now the problem begins.
Sure.
Getting everybody together and, like, major stakeholders to talk about what it means to them is a really impressive thing to do. And, it could get, loud and it could get angry. The whole goal with the right facilitator would be that person would help keep that from happening. And like the main goal of the facilitator in an experience like that is really to mirror back what you're saying. You would tell me why you want the monument removed. And a lot of times the people on the other side can't hear you because they're figuring out what they want to say. So they're not even listening to you. And by the time they speak, you're not listening to them because you really hear you. What the facilitator would do is the facilitator would basically parrot back and paraphrase what you said so that you feel heard. And at the same time, the other people are hearing it from someone who's neutral to the situation, who's not on one side or the other. And it really helps people move forward in this conversation. Still may not, figure out a perfect solution, never will, because you got like very polarized sides in this. But it helps people get to listen to each other, helps each other, and a lot of times it diffuses some of that tension.
And so even to that point, as I said to you last time we talked, and I sent to you an email, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, but it's just the way that I look at things. And, I said before, if someone wanted to, and knowing that, the German and the Jewish, the Holocaust and all that happened in another area, still yet the whole world felt the effect of that. So to that point, I said, if someone was to come and say, hey, we'd like to erect a couple statues, SS soldier statues, and to have some Nazi flags, would that be allowed? Would everyone be comfortable with that? And if they said, hey, we don't want to talk, we don't extol the values of the murdering and the hate, but we want to talk about what Hitler did for German pride, would that be okay? And of course, the answer would be no, that's not okay. So the point is, symbols that represent the same to black people, why is that so easily flown in our faces daily? Now, I can usually answer my own questions, and I can answer this just fine, but seriously, what is the difference there? Because if someone was like, hey man, we want to put up some Nazi statues and fly some swastikas, Jewish folks would be like, there is no way that's happening. Why? What's the difference there? Just your opinion. There is no right or wrong answer.
It's not even just Jewish folks. I think like Jewish, Christian,
sure,
Muslim, everybody would be against that. I think like the biggest issue there is the time frame. Like the stuff with Hitler and Nazis happened so quickly, and then the entire world bands together and gets rid of it and makes it impossible, for people to just have a Nazi flag or a Nazi symbol without being obviously, anti-Jewish. I mean,
sure.
But with the whole African American experience, it built up for so many hundreds of years that slavery wasn't an issue, like until it became an issue. It was hundreds of years before that happened, and then the progress to break down all those systems has been so ridiculously slow that people feel that they don't notice it as much as they would notice a Nazi flag, even though like the death toll to African Americans over hundreds of years was so much higher than it would have been to Jews in World War II.
So are you saying that because it's been embedded imagery and symbolism that people have just always been tolerable of it? But I would say to this Bill, in Germany, it is completely against the law to have any Nazi symbolism whatsoever.
Right.
So do you know what symbol they use if they want to say, hey, this is what we represent? They use a Confederate flag. And so I'm like, so even to that point, it's like, well, the Confederate flag has always had a certain meaning to it. But if we look at the original symbol of the swastika, that's a Kushite Kemetic symbol that had nothing to do with what Hitler then took it, and within 80 years, 70, 80 years, made it something completely terrible. That had nothing to do with its original meaning. So even in that, it's like, well, a symbol that's always represented something that's been atrocities to black people, that gets to be out there, but something that didn't originally have that meaning, but someone gave it a terrible meaning, that still, it makes me think a whole lot. I'll just put it like that. It makes me think about that a lot.
I totally hear you, and I agree with you. I mean, I think you're right. Unfortunately, racism is just embedded in this country, and we've seen more and more that, like, even where we thought we were getting maybe a little further down the road and a little further away from that, now we've just gone totally backwards in all of it. I mean, it's okay to be racist in some areas of this country, and that's horrendous. I just don't even know how to deal with that sometimes.
And if you would, I sent this to you in an email. If you would have asked me, when we were 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, it's like, there's something happening here. You have to say it loud. I'm black and proud. What's going? There was all this music and movement to where we seem to be naturally growing in a progressive, not a political term, but in a way of growth, in a progressive way. So if we would have projected by the time we're, well, I hate to say it, by the time we're 50, like we are now, I would have thought that we would have all had some sort of space shuttle. Remember, like in 3rd grade in the Weekly Reader, we were all supposed to be like having space shuttles flying back and forth. I thought we'd be doing that, not looking backwards and talking about stuff that I guess only had the illusion of being fixed, but really wasn't fixed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I don't even think the illusion was that strong. I think honestly the election of Barack Obama blew that illusion out of the water. Just all of the stuff he dealt with, just that whole birtherism thing, from a start. his election caused so much fear from people that they just started showing sides of themselves that you would have never expected to see them show privately, much less publicly. And that's just gotten worse under this president, and it's just getting worse on a daily basis. I mean, look at what happened in Charlottesville like 2 years ago. You know, that was over a Confederate memorial as well, but it turned into a neo-Nazi parade with them screaming, "Jews aren't going to take our job." Now, there's no real connection between the Confederacy and the Nazis, except what white supremacists and white nationalists are doing, and just using it as a fear-mongering technique.
And you know, Bill, I have to say this because, you know, here on TaJ Talk and Talk with TaJ, we like to discuss, we like to define, and we like to deliver. So I have to say this for sake of being a grown-up. I don't care who is in office. Grown-up adults should be able to have enough compassion, humanity, and common sense to be like, you know what? This is who I am. I don't care who's in office, who's the preacher, teacher, whomever. There's a core of me that represents this. So although I do know that when Barack Obama was in office, a certain sentiment came about. Now Trump is in office, a certain sentiment has come about. But you know what, man? We are the highly evolved creature. Fifth digit, fully evolved, creating, we walk upright. We can do better than, well, if the person in office is making me act like this, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I know what you mean when you say that, but I can't just lay that. That's an easy lay to say it's because of that cat that people are acting like that. That's either who you are in your soul and it just took enough to stir it up. But as adults, as grown people, we should be able to find our compassion for humanity, regardless of who is in office. You know what I mean?
I agree with you, and I'm not saying because he's in office, it's causing more people to be racist. I'm saying because he's in office, it's allowing more people who always were racist. It's okay to say that now. Got it. And yeah, so I hear what you're saying, and I think unfortunately there's too few people with those convictions that are willing to stand up and say, like, people are people, and this is ridiculous. We can't be doing this to other people.
So, you know, again, we like to discuss, define, deliver. So I like solutions. I like moving forward. Anyone can keep looking backwards. So what is a work in progress working solution, knowing that everything can't be done today, but what is the direction, the intent that we should be moving towards?
Well, I'm all for removing Confederate statues. I am all for renaming high schools that have names like Robert E. Lee and Jefferson Davis and all that. I think we need to move forward with that. I actually think it takes bold city councils to say, we're doing this, even above the protest, and then just do it and deal with the fallout from people. Because it seems like, I mean, in Virginia and Stanton, what happened was they finally agreed to change the name to Stanton High School, which is what it used to be in the 60s. Now, that's the other thing, is like this high school wasn't always named after a Confederate hero. It used to be just Stanton High School, and it was when civil rights got to be a big issue. And as you know,
so it's to reinforce Jim Crow and all that stuff, yeah. So, so then what I will say is, and ladies and gentlemen, we're talking to Mr. William Goldberg of the Peacebuilding Institute in Harrisonburg, Virginia, and also Eastern Mennonite University. Am I putting this all together right? It used to be Eastern Mennonite College, but
pretty close.
But there's an affiliation between the college and the university and the Peacebuilding Institute.
The Center for Justice and Peacebuilding.
Center for Justice and Peacebuilding.
A member of is a part of the university, and the Summer Peacebuilding Institute that I run is under that. So yeah, Summer Institute at Eastern Mennonite University works fine.
All right, and so tell us one last time what's coming up this summer at the Peacebuilding Center for Justice Peacebuilding Institute. What can people expect? How can people get in touch with you if they want to be a part of the Center for Justice Peacebuilding Institute?
Well, like I said, we do three. This year we're doing 3 sessions of classes. Each session has 4 to 5 options of different classes. We're still working on the schedule, but there's going to be classes on restorative justice, on systemic racism, on leadership, on trauma and trauma awareness, violent extremism, new one that's related to violent extremism and humane social media, with understanding that a lot of the problems that we have with violent extremism, with racism, come from people being able to use social media almost blindly to just put out whatever they want.
Sure.
Classes, and they can look up Summer Peacebuilding Institute online. They can get you, they can talk to you. They can, I can send you a link that you can put on your site.
So send me a link and I'll attach it to this video once we edit it, and I'll also put it on the site, Bill.
Sure.
All right. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, and I was at Bill Goldberg's bar mitzvah. I think he posted a picture of that back in the day. So, yes, I've known him since Old Court Junior High School, Randallstown High School, and I'm glad to call him my friend. Bill, I appreciate you very much. Thanks for stopping by. You here?
Thanks for having me, Aaron.
All right, man. Enjoy the day. So that is our friend Bill Goldberg, and he is of the Center for Justice Peacebuilding Institute. And we have had a great time having him here. And I'm going to play a little music, and we'll come back. We're going to talk about the water here in Pittsburgh. And I'm to have a guest from the Haw River Assembly. And if she can't make it, I'll do all the talking myself. So you guys will have to keep listening to me. So here is a little something again from local artist Wes Collins off of his Back from the Ether CD. And this is called Orange and Magenta.
So orange and magenta paddles out beyond the breakers to the swell. Male or female, black or white, from where I'm at you need binoculars to tell. I've been here on this rock for 15 days to true my compass and forget you. And every morning I come out and grab a little time with orange and magenta. I can see my options iris down and fade away the more I walk this world. Guess I threw away my shot to hang my toes or run my fingers down the inside of a curl. Hunker down a minute and take the time you need to sketch out your adventure. But read the tide or it can pull you down for good. You just ask orange and magenta. It can cost a lot of sleep to try and figure where the day went every night. If you allow for all the time you put in worrying, it balances alright. Plot your moves to minimize the danger and avoid another lecture. While you're staring at your shoes, a day will bleed from blue to orange and magenta. Orange and magenta.
Whoa. L-O-L-O-L-O-L-O-V-E-E, yo. I sing a song about God's loving and spread it to corners of all the universe. See, all in love. All in love. All in love. All in love. See, TaJ loving that's positive. Gotta reach for the positive. Wanna feel this love, all in love now. In love, we're all in love. There's so much love still inside of you. We're all in love, yeah. In love, all in love, yeah. It's just so simple now, and it's just more clear. Your messenger finally getting through your ears. And after all these long, hard years, with all this tragedy, this fear, but yet your loving still remains right here. We're all in love, yeah. In love, we're all in love. There's so much love still inside of you. We're all in love now. All in love. We're all in love. There's something that's true still inside of you. I know you can't see, but it's there indeed. So way down inside, don't you let love hide. Just let your love go, and it grows and grows. It shot me like an arrow. Got love pouring out from my heart, and I want to give you a part. So I just keep reaching for all that's positive. Gotta reach for the positive. If you're gonna feel this all in love, if you're gonna feel this loving all in love, if you're gonna feel your love is real, all inside, all inside.